family. We look forward to seeing you there.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey y'all, this is Dr. Traci, Harrell, and what I'm most excited about is being here with you. I am 100% present with you. That's just how we roll. Y'all know this is about living powerfully and better together. So I am Dr. Traci Harrell, and today what we get to talk about and what we get to reflect on, and I really want to hear from you all. Again, we're going to work the chat with my producer. He's amazing, by the way. But today we're going to talk a little bit about just a little reality check. It's 12/22. We have one more Monday in 2025. So it's 12/22. And we get to talk about a few things. First of all, we get to focus on the fact that it's been, a few things. This year has been something. It's been interesting. I couldn't think of one adjective to describe it because there's a duality in so many ways, right? In some ways, it's been a crazy long year, exhausting. In other ways, this year's gone by so fast. So you get to decide, is it this or that? It's actually both, and both things can be true. And I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves to actually have that duality of truth. So, it can feel expansive, and it can also feel quick. It can be challenging, right? Exhausting, and also rewarding. And I describe this year as all of those things. Right. And we get to check in and, reality check to say, if we can believe both things are true, it could stretch you, but also be reaffirming for you. So when we believe that it can be demanding, but purposeful, it can, some moments feel heavy, but, light in other moments where this was just easy. There was so much ease and flow this year, so many miracles that showed up for me. I was like, wow. Thank God. And then there were so many lessons, even through the end of this year. Like I leaned into people, I leaned into others, even more than normally. And I learned a lesson. I learned a couple of lessons, right, around, about how we give, right? Believing in others and choosing to show up in excellence. That's a good thing. Even when they don't do their part, even when they don't show up in excellence, as long as you've aligned with your values, I can still celebrate that as a win, right? Because what lesson did I learn from that, right? Everyone doesn't deserve access to you. And so when we think about this year in 2025, what I'm excited about is being able to kind of name the shift, right? Name the fact that even in those uncertain times, even in those moments where, we need some clarity, we can still feel proud of yourself, right? We can still know that rest is something that we all get to do. We want to do. We are allowed to do. We choose to do. These are choices that we get to make. So if you're tired and you can articulate those words, it's okay to end the year saying, whoo, as I reflect, it was a lot, right? And so I think, being proud of yourself, being grateful is always the way to go. Choosing the things that you did well, but also it's reflecting on the areas where you could have done better, reflecting on those areas where energy was taken from you, or you gave your energy to individuals or to projects or to things that you're like, okay, if that happens again, I will be more decisive. I'll think differently. I'll learn from whatever situation has occurred in 2025 so that 2026 is even better. So that's the ask for this year is for you to choose to feel fulfilled, but also ready to take a pause, right? Also ready to breathe. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to ask you to name it, like name what you're feeling right now. Name it. How are you feeling? Life is layered, right? We're layered. Growth is a layered process. So, you don't have to flatten your experience to say it was this or that. Both things can be true. So tell us a little bit about, what matters most is what you choose to focus on. But it's okay to claim it, to name it, to actually talk about what some of the experiences that you've had. So we do want 2025 as we end the year, we want to reflect, we want to pause, we want to meditate just a little bit on the duality of how things have likely showed up for all of us this year. Heavy, hopefully fun, and hopefully some of the choices that you've made have honored your values. Most of the choices you've made have honored your values. And when that hasn't been the case, again, those are the lessons learned. Those are the spaces where we get to, again, choose what you're going to carry forward, but also choose what to release, right? There was probably some negative energy, some people who brought some things that you're like, ooh, I'm going to leave that in 2025, right? I want to leave that energy in 2025. I do not need to take that with me into 2026. I absolutely do not. So the ask is really simple. This season actually brings us a powerful opportunity. Again, the reflection is so powerful, but so is the pause, the breathing, the pouring into yourself. It gives us an opportunity to choose well when we do pause, to choose what the next week, the next day, the next year is going to focus on for you. So when you get to pause, right, that's the concept of elevation without pressure. There's no pressure. There's no, you don't get to talk about what you didn't do, because we're not interested in that. We want to elevate. Right? If there's something you can do different, that's called a lesson learned. Yay! But we're not beating you up. You're not beating yourself up. So self-talk matters as well. And I think, as we close the year, I want to make sure we're all thinking about elevation without pressure. Right? Does that make sense? So choosing a path that elevates us, that actually puts us in a position, that aligns us with the outcomes that we say we want. So we're choosing a path that supports continued growth and the success that we say we want, that we know we want, the things that we're going to do differently. Makes sense. I love it. I love it. So as we focus on this path, right, not from a force, not because we're hustling, right, but for clarity and from a place of clarity, from a place of heightened awareness as well. I think that's the thing that I value most. In the relationships that I'm cultivating is people who actually want to level up. They're not just saying they want to level up. It's in the moments, right? Live in the moments where they're like, okay, let's do this differently. Oops, okay, I did this, I said this, I should have done this differently. Let's level up in the moment, because that's really authenticity, right? That's excellence. That's saying in the moment I get to choose well. Again, so heightened awareness, like how are you showing up for other people, but also being more intentional about the outcomes that you want and the outcomes that you want, not only from others, but really more than anything. We talked about this week in and week out, really. We want to change the world, but changing yourself is how we first change the world, right? We know that systems are designed to maintain the status quo. We can change systems, but that starts with us changing ourselves. And this is so interesting. I'm looking at this new close-up view that's sideways, and help me, Jesus. Anyway, I'll keep moving. So we have lots of systems that we're broadcasting on. So I'm going to stay focused on the one that looks full screen. So y'all go to YouTube, go to LinkedIn. This whole, I think it's Facebook. I don't know, but it's interesting. Okay. So again, what we talked about earlier is claiming and naming where we are right now. And I can honestly say I'm a little tired. So the work that I've been doing and some of the emphasis that I've been pouring into myself over the last few weeks really is rest. Like I get to choose rest. I don't have to run around and, chase people who aren't living in integrity. I'm gonna put it out there. I will do some follow-up. Some people, other people, I'm just like, that's just like negative energy. Chaos can be contagious. So when there's chaotic energy or chaotic people that are just like, oh, that's not aligned with what you said before, and I choose not to even follow up, right? There will be some people where I'm like, okay, I'm just glad to be free of that, and I'll move on. There are other people where there's such deep legacy. I had such a deep investment that I chose to invest further, right? And these are choices that we get to make. And you know who that is in your life too, right? Where, the holidays come up and you're like, oh my goodness, right? Do I have to, I don't know, it could be a relative. It could be, someone that that you're around because other people in your family have to be around them. Well, you still get to choose how you react in every situation, right? How much energy you invest in that space and in that person. And these are choices that we get to make. So integrating tiredness, we're not leading with it, but it's okay if you feel tired. That's part of my truth too. And we'd be crazy if we didn't allow ourselves to rest. And many of us have kind of stuck to that Western mentality where it's like, go, 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 go. Sabrina calls it, this busyness, focusing on just staying busy. And I'm not busy. I'm very intentional about the people and the places, that I invest my time and energy in. So the ask is, it's okay to say you're feeling tired, but tired doesn't get the final word. That's just a word. That's just one state. That's just one fact, one truth. But there's more, right? That's part of the truth too, and we want to acknowledge it. Because when you acknowledge that you're tired, that acknowledges, hey, that means today I don't have to do A, B, or C. I don't have to take that meeting. I'm actually going to move it to the next week. A lot of people are on vacation. You can say whatever you want to say, but you get to choose for yourself and listen to your body. Like the co-host in the show right before me, I know he typically focuses on men. My message is for men and women, but I love the fact that it's a man talking about men folk stuff, right? Talking about, and I heard him talk about, your pouring into yourself. I heard him talking about, pampering yourself or supporting yourself. And so, your body is information. Tired is information. It says you've been engaged, right? You've been present. You've been very present. It also says that you've been actively living your life, like actively, like I'm all in. When I say I'm all in, I'm literally all in. I overdo it oftentimes. And then, that's something that you can respect in yourself. No judgment for people who are not double down, right? I overdo it, right? And so I'm working on that too. But respect that for yourself. You may not get the celebration from the people around you with all the wonderful things you've done. I'm sure your house is, hopefully it's a place of peace. Hopefully it's a place of peace. So hopefully when you go to work, whatever's happening there, you may not be able to control that environment. You may have people even in your home where you're like, I can't control all of this either, but you can control your reaction to whatever is happening around you. So feeling tired is okay. Choosing to put yourself in a position where you get to recharge is absolutely something I hope you're doing in this week. These next couple of weeks, actually, as we close this year and start the new year, I really hope that you are absolutely, celebrating the things that made you tired, the investments that you made, how you were present, how you contributed to the lives of others. I hope and pray that you were doing that. And as you're reflecting on what you did, on how you showed up, hopefully you're reflecting without any heaviness, right? this time of year isn't about pressure. It can be. People put pressure on themselves, and other people are like, well, this is it. I have not bought one gift for Christmas, not one, because I celebrate my people every day. If you're in my life, if you have not heard that I love you and I care for you on a regular basis, then my apologies, because whoever I actually get to spend time with, I say the words on a very regular basis because I mean it. So I don't have to circle back around and wait till Christmas to now start giving gifts and being, a host and inviting people over. No, I do that on a very regular basis, and I love my people up, and I say, you know what, you matter to me, right? You are important to me, and I say the words. So I really hope also that even though it's Christmas time, that presents are adding extra pressure, that you get to truly reflect without heaviness, that you get to, look back with honesty and look forward with intention. Those are the two things that I would ask, right? As you're looking back, you're choosing what you want to move into whatever's next for you. You're looking back, right? That Sankofa, that's a word, that's part of the African heritage. That's around, looking backwards as you look forward, bringing forward, birthing new things based on, the ancestors or the history. So being smart, right? Like leveraging the past as you move forward into the future. So, that's one of our, I came back from Africa with a series of beautiful pieces of jewelry that had all these Adinkra symbols on them. And the Sankofa bird is one of them. But also, the faith factor, courage and beauty and all the things. So I can remind myself, I had some earrings I had on the other day for an event, and it's just extra jewelry, bracelets that I can see, very visibly. And so being in a position where you're reminded of the courage, right, of our ancestors, you're reminded of the strength of our creator. Those are the kind of things that really get me excited, is being in a position to say, as I reflect on this year, I'm reflecting on all of it, right? The duality of being tired and the beauty of contributing to the lives of others. So both things, again, can be true. And that's my hope for you all. So I'm going to ask you again, I'm going to ask you to put this in the chat wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever other things that they have happening here with Rainier Avenue Radio. What feels most true for you right now? What feels most true for you? Again, proud and reflective, grateful and tired, full, but also ready to pause. All that's good. There's no wrong answer. It's really just about saying it, naming it, and claiming it so that you take the appropriate next action for you. Let me just say that again. You're naming it, you're claiming it so that you take the next appropriate action for you. I love that. I love that. So this concept of transitioning forward, right? We want to honor the full picture of 2025. We're going to want to minimize it. We don't want to dramatize it, but we do want to learn from it, right? This Sankofa, Sankofa. Someone just gave me a private chat. Sankofa. You can look it up. They're beautiful images. Again, it's a bird. It's looking backwards. The head is typically looking backwards. They typically have an egg in their mouth because, again, they're birthing. They're bringing forward something for the future. And so it's that preparation. It's that future focus, but it's really bringing honor to the past, honor to our ancestors, honor to both things. And so, again, I was talking about the duality. You can hold more than one truth. The past is important, but really being intentional and focused on the future is important too. Both things are true. That's one of the Adinkra symbols, Adinkra, for the person who asked that question. It's just this idea of saying both things are true. So you get to decide, right? And what I love most about this is that in addition to talking, I have 10 minutes, a little bit less than 10 minutes before we go to our first break. And then it's just a 1 or 2 minute break and then we come right back. But I want to get through this because, again, it's the second to the last Monday in 2025. And so that reflection is so important. Self-talk is so critical. So the voice that shapes your life, it's you. And oftentimes, we hear from other people, and we oftentimes allow their voices to shape how we think about ourselves, right? And we may have had, ex-husbands. Thank God I don't have any ex-husbands. And most of my exes, I would say I could have a lineup of all of my exes in the room, and I don't think we'd have a bad conversation. I don't think anyone would have too many bad things to say, because I try to end well, even with crazy people. And I take very due diligence in getting into relationships with people. Normally, especially male-female relationships, I'm very slow to engage normally. I've made a few exceptions. Very few, but it is about taking the time to really get to know someone. And the reason I say that is, when we do our due diligence in relationships, whether it's personal relationships or business relationships or friendships or acquaintances, all those things matter, because the truth is, and what's really important is, the people that you hang out with, the people that, like, I learned things about other people in community. It's like, oh my goodness, I have to be careful who I hang out with, because, there was someone who I was working with, and someone else said, my experience with that person has just been chaos, just like a lot of swirl. And I was like, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And I thought that was so good to hear. And again, I was bringing in some support, some capacity building, but I just thought that was so interesting. And so you do have to be careful who you connect with at all times. You must. And so that would be my other ask as well, is to say, make sure you're showing up with integrity. Make sure you're showing up and lovingly honoring those people who have created a space for you to truly be your best. Right? Like I try to speak positively of everyone. If you don't hear me talking about, even if people have done me wrong, I do my very best to level up and to stay. Like, again, I want my creator to say, well done. I don't care about everybody else. I need for my creator to say, well done. I see you, Traci. I see you trying to do good work. Thank you very much. I see you. And so that's my ask, right? As we go into this year, as we close out 2025 and we focus on 2026, the ask is, how are you talking to yourself, right? Because you're always talking to yourself, whether you know it or not, right? Self-talk never turns off, ever. It shapes how you interpret anything. So when something bad happens, you remember how we used to say, every situation can be turned into a gift or an opportunity, right? So whatever situation it is, every bad thing, what is the gift? What is the opportunity? I asked myself that before. It is what it is. Did not end the way I would have hoped. What can I learn from this? What is the gift or the opportunity from this situation? And that's important, because then you don't, again, you can acknowledge the person hurt your feelings because you thought something was going to be one way and they turned out it was another way, and they said something and they didn't live up to their end of it. Got it. You can say those words, you can feel those feelings, but then you want to focus on the positive. You really want to say, what can I learn from that so I can move on, right? You don't want to hold that kind of stuff, and you definitely don't want to take it with you into 2026. Y'all, I think if you follow me on Facebook, I put this beautiful post. I'm in this, like, literally my water view is like more than 180 degrees. Like, it is wrap around. The whole property has just like water in the Puget Sound. It's in the area called Broadview. There's a hot tub outside. There's a huge jacuzzi tub upstairs. There's a sauna upstairs. And so, yeah, my life is pretty freaking amazing. I know. I mean, I thank God every day. I wake up and I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And I say that because, again, I also have the lowest bank account I've ever had. I'm being honest. I'm just telling the truth. I have some people who owe me money, and I'm hoping to follow up and get some of it I'm going to pursue. Like the bigger one, I'm going to pursue. The smaller one, I'm going to be like, you know what, let me just leave that alone and consider that my gift to the universe. Right? Because I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta do a little bit of both of those things. And I always want to end well. So when I was already physically and mentally and emotionally invested in the outcome, then that was my creator saying, you in well, don't worry about them. I'll handle them. You handle my business, right? And so when I work with people, typically for me, it's like it is, these are like divine callings. And so I've leaned in, and I will continue to lean in. And what I say to myself in a situation is a little iffy, or someone does something to me, because 3 people reached out to me this week about someone who did something to them, and it was some holiday family stuff, and they were going back and forth. They had a long story, and I stopped 2 of them halfway through. I was like, look, can I stop you real quick? Because I'm sure you could go back to the 60s, right, and tell me even more. Like, you could go all the way back. But how much of that really matters right now? If that person was no longer in your life, right? Think about what you would want, how you would want to end your life, and what do you want to say to them as their life comes to an end? Like, we got to sometimes just, snip don't sweat the small stuff. There's a great book, if you haven't read it already. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying let people do you any kind of way. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying decide how and where you invest your energy, and then you choose differently, right? You get to choose differently, but you also get to say, like, to assess the situation and let your self-talk be positive. That's how you allow your self-talk to be automatically positive without, beating up on yourself about something that didn't work out the way you had hoped it would, right? Because when you're tired, which a lot of us are, it's been a long year, your self-talk gets louder, right? And you don't want your self-talk to be telling you something as you end the year. Like, a lot of people are depressed this time of year. The weather's not great. The holidays, for some people aren't great. I love this time of year, and I'm flying solo at the moment. And joyfully so. I say that joyfully so. And it's beautiful. Like, my partner's out of the country, and I love it. I love that. Like, he's with family, and it brings me joy. And not my partner, like partner, but my partner in life. Like, I share space with an individual who's amazing. Most of you have heard of Ken, right? And he's like an amazing human being, like a great human being. But when you have people that also invest in you, the one thing that I think that's super important is that you are also investing in you. That's why this conversation is not about anybody else. This is about you and your self-talk, right? You're always talking to yourself. Self-talk gets louder when you're tired. It gets louder at your end. It gets louder during holidays. It gets louder when you have these bruises, these emotional bruises, say from prior Christmases and stuff that's happened. And someone said something, and then you haven't let it go. You haven't done the forgiveness work to truly let it go. And then, self-talk starts to, replay old bad messages. And so that's why I want to get us to be intentional. And I see we have a break, so I need to go on break real quick. Let me just say this last thing. Awareness is the first win. So you just get to decide as we go to this break, ask yourself, right, what tone does your inner voice usually have with you? Is it gentle? Is it harsh? Is it rushed? So what do you want? What tone do you want to have in 2026 with yourself? Right? How do you want to show up in 2026? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the how, we're going to talk about the what, and we're going to talk about so much more. So stay with us live on Rainier Avenue Radio. We'll be right back with Living Powerfully and Better Together.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station. Heavy rainfall and flooding in King County have caused sewage overflows in many areas, and in flooded buildings, mold can quickly set in. Before you set foot in a flooded building, take these steps to protect yourself from electrocution, mold, and potential exposure to contaminants. If there is still standing water, turn off power, gas, and water before re-entering. Do not touch electrical equipment while touching water. After touching anything that flood water has also touched, wash your hands and clothes with plenty of soap and clean running water. Wear an N95 mask, gloves, goggles, and protective gear when cleaning. Mold can grow within 24 to 48 hours after a flood. Open windows and doors and pump out water after flood waters recede. This has been a Rainier Avenue Radio public service announcement.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Một thông điệp chính thức từ Medicare. Với luật mới, quý vị có thể tiết kiệm được nhiều tiền hơn đối với các chi phí thuốc kê toa. Xem liệu quý vị có họ đủ điều kiện nhận trợ giúp bổ sung Extra Help của Medicare hay không. Quý vị nên tìm hiểu chương trình này. Truy cập ssa.gov/extrahelp. Chi phí được Bộ Y tế và các dịch vụ nhân sinh Hoa Kỳ trả.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat. Street Beat. Tony.
A teacher who hurt their back and got prescribed opioids. A daughter trying to cope with a loss in the family. A friend silently struggling, thinking they'll be a burden if they ask for help. People with addiction come from all walks of life, and the truth is they stand a better chance at recovery with our support. Reaching out and sharing local resources can make all the difference. Don't count them out. More people recover with support. Find more ways to help at supportaddictionrecovery.com. That's supportaddictionrecovery.com.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update.
Hey y'all, if you're ready to continue to just live powerfully, to go deep in 2025 as you reflect on what happened in 2025 and what intentions do you have for 2026? That's what I'm so excited about, is what are your intentions? What are the hopes that you have for yourself and those around you? So we already talked a little bit about the duality of truth, right? It's not this or that. Really, both things can be true. People probably, people who know me and know me well, there's always two sides of every story, right? Like I can, if you have this long list of individuals or reasons why, some person is bad or something is bad, I can give you an equally long list of the opposite side, because both things are often true, and then you still get to choose. Right. But seeing just one side and deciding this person is bad because of this and I don't see anything else and I'm moving on. I think making a truly informed decision and a wise decision is one that actually believes both things are true. Both sides are true. And you're willing to explore both sides. You're willing to explore and look into both sides. So again, in 2025, you've all had people who did not show up as you would have liked. I know we have. We've been disappointed, maybe even angry, right? And yet still, we can decide and ask ourselves, what can I learn from that? How am I better because of that, right? We're not giving that person permission to do it again. We've learned, we see, what does Maya Angelou say? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And I have to admit, I've struggled with that in the past. I got a little faster with it recently, but I've struggled with that because I do believe the best, in people, and we want that for you as well, right? Because again, the more positive energy that you put out into the universe, the more that you get back, right? It's these reciprocal laws of the universe. I mentioned Deepak Chopra's book. It's called The 7 Laws of Spiritual Success. And he does talk about this duality. But there's also another book that I love, and it is Stephen Covey's, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And those 2 books are so beautiful for a few reasons, right? They're beautiful because they set some basic groundwork regarding who we are and how we show up. Right. So this concept of self-talk, I mentioned that as well, because again, as you're reflecting, self-talk gets louder and louder. And you want to make sure you're not just falling into old habits. Right. We also talked about the power of habit. We talked about atomic habits. We've talked about, these are books that I keep bringing up because if you understand the core of what they are, then you'll use these concepts every day and you'll be like, oh, I'm so much better for it. Oh, I'm so much better for it. Oh, I'm so much better for it, right? Things that sound regular, but if your heart isn't pure, if you're not finding and seeing miracles every day and joy on a regular, then this is the work for you to do, right? Because that's what happens, right? When you choose to think differently, to see things differently. Perspective is power. I often say decisions determine your destiny, right? And it's the beliefs that we have. So when we go deeper, it's into the beliefs, right? Because once you recognize that, more than one truth can exist at the same time, the next question becomes, which truth am I choosing to lead with? Which belief am I choosing to lead with? What patterns in my life are showing up that reflect what truth? Like, what do I really believe? Because sometimes we can't even believe that we must believe that if this is the outcome that keeps showing up, if these are the patterns that keep showing up in your life, right, then there's a belief that is, underneath that. So that's why it's so important that we go deep, right? And we really look at perspective. You say decisions determine your destiny, meaning it's the daily doings. That's what that means, right? But it's the beliefs and your perspective, right? Perspective truly is power. So perspective does not, I just want to say this slowly. Perspective does not change the facts. Perspective changes the impact of the facts, right? So if someone has harmed you, they've harmed you. Got it. How that impacts you, how you react to it and respond to it, that's perspective. That's maturity. That's spiritual maturity. It's professional maturity, right? When things don't go your way, you have a conversation about it, hopefully. And if not, even if you can't have a conversation, right, your perspective about how it fuels and impacts you physically, right, matters. So what happened, it happened. What didn't happen, it just didn't happen. What worked, it worked. What didn't work, it didn't work. Like, these are facts. These things are what they are. Perspective never rewrites history. And you got to be careful with people who try to rewrite history to say, well, what had happened was, no, that's not what happened. I'm okay if we decide to go different paths, but let's not try to rewrite history, right? That's the whole gaslighting thing. And we don't want that, because that's when you're not really walking in truth. So when I say two truths can be true at the same time, two opposite, even duality. That's why we started with that today. I wanted to make sure we're clear. I'm tired, but I'm also fulfilled, right? It's been a long year. It's also gone by fast, right? Somebody said no rewriting history. You know what I'm saying. You already know. You understand what I'm saying? So you're not rewriting it, right? You're adding to it. It's the perspective around history. So perspective determines how much weight you give something or someone in your life, right? So how much meaning you assign to it too. Again, if somebody did a little something, I like to talk about these emotional bruises, right? Somebody did something, and now that builds on something that your mama did. You know what I'm saying? Somebody neglected you, or you felt neglected, or someone whatever it is, and now you got the bruise of somebody in your family who neglected you. So now that little bump is like a whole, your whole shoulders broke down because you still have the weight of the old injuries. So let's let little things be little things and not compound them from other people's things. Does that make sense? So sometimes we rewrite history with our own self-talk. Like, I can't believe that person did that to me. I can't believe this assault on my character. Was it an assault on your character, or did they just try to hold you to what you said you was going to do and you didn't do it, and now they're asking you questions about it? Is that really an assault? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, both things could be true. It could be an assault to you, but for that person, it's just asking some simple questions as professionals would. So I think it's important for you to understand, for us to kind of start with the two things can be true. Both things can be true. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's in trouble. You know that image where you have a 6 and a 9, and you have a person on one side of the image and a person standing on the other side. So I draw a big 6. I don't know, that's really backwards, but you know what I mean. If there's a human on this side and a person on that side, and there's a big 6 looking thing on the ground, from this side, from the person where the circle is at the top, it's a 9. From this person's perspective, it's a 6 because the circle's at the bottom because they're on this side of it. So both sides are true. Both perspectives are true. So allow for that. I guess that's kind of my gift for today is allow for both things to be true. And then you choose how you want to proceed, assuming both things are true without rewriting history, without saying that didn't happen. Somebody said good word. Thank you. So I hope you love that. So again, perspective is about how you carry something forward. Two people can live through the same experience and walk away with completely different outcomes, completely different experiences. They completely different mindsets about the thing. And it's based on where they start, what they know, right? Based on a whole series of things, right? How clear you were to start. You can even be crystal clear to start. You can have stuff written down and people still interpret it differently. So it's okay. I think that's the thing. I always like to say, let's end well regardless. Regardless. It's okay that we decide that we do not want to continue doing A or B. Like say you're in a relationship with someone and you realize that relationship is just not going exactly where you would like it to go. And it's okay. That's why I can say I can flash back to any of my exes. And I only have a few. I chose well, thank God. Right. But I think each person would say Traci is a good person. We ended well, even if it didn't work out, right? I choose to try to end well. Like if you invest time and before you get into the thing, these are good people, right? Hopefully, and so you get to invest. And so even if you decide, hey, I don't really want to invest a whole lot of energy in this person, it doesn't have to be negative. You don't have to ignore the person and you look stupid, and it doesn't make sense. I just choose not to invest energy there, right? And you can choose to do it in a positive way. Disagree agreeably, if that makes sense. So let me keep moving. We're talking about perspectives. We're talking about self-talk and perspective and how two people can have the same situation, have the same experience, and see it totally different or have different outcomes. So it's important to write things down and get other people involved so that there's some clarity, because if this person is a 6, it's always going to be a 6 for them. There is nothing you're going to be able to say that ain't a 6, unless you can say, hey, come over here and I need you to say from my side, oh my goodness, it's a 9. Oh, let me visit you. Okay, I see why it was a 6. How much better is that outcome? That you're both seeing it from the other person's perspective and you get to say, okay, you're not crazy. I understand now. This makes so much sense. So whatever situation is happening in your life where it's been a little bumpy, it's important to, like I said, put yourself in the other person's shoes. That's some Stevie Covey stuff too, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? Understand their perspective first. Let me come over here to your side, right? Understand. I want to understand what's happening. And sometimes people are not going to even give you the opportunity, right? You reach out, they don't want to speak. Okay, no problem. But you resolve it in your own head with the appropriate self-talk. That's why I want to make sure you're clear. You're not giving anybody permission to change how you think. You're saying, I'm going to be open to seeing the other side. Even if they don't see my side, they may never think a 9 is appropriate. You don't have to spend no time showing them there's a 9 or whatever, right? Because you're on this side and they're on that side. But if you're smart enough to be able to understand that there is a other side to a situation, that's beautiful. That's joy. So when I say we choose joy, we get to choose what living powerfully is like. That's one of the, the 7 levels of living powerfully. I haven't gotten through all of those, but the concept of choosing joy, understanding what can I learn from this situation, and believing that everyone's a good person, that they're doing the best they can. And sometimes the best they can is the best they can, and it ain't great. You know what I mean? Like it ain't great. I like to go and look at it every now and then. It's not great, right? Sometimes people just they can't. They're doing the best they can, and the outcomes are not good. You're like, wow, that's all they got. No problem. I'm going to still live in joy. I'm going to choose to do well. So this is the space where choice lives, right? Where I bring in, think about the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? Stephen Covey, he names something we don't talk about enough. He says between, stimulus and response, there's that space. The space is where the power to choose your response is at. That space is everything. That power the power of the pause. We've had shows that were called the power of the pause, right? That space where in between whatever happened and your response to whatever happens, there's space. So you get to pause. And in that space, we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about the whole PQ methodology. We've gone through that. We've talked about the superpowers. And I look forward to bringing that to you, to your team, to other individuals, to leaders. But whatever happens, just pausing and breathing gives you the opportunity to think differently, to have a different perspective. And again, perspective is power. So not only your perspective is power, seeing it from the other person's perspective, that's power too, because you're thinking about our life is a lot about relationships. So you can't make anybody see anything differently, but you can see it differently. And that's going to reframe how you see the situation and how you see the person and how you see life, right? How you approach the next situation, right? That might be similar. So again, that space that we talked about, the space between the stimulus and the response, that's everything. It's where growth happens. It's where maturity lives. When someone is immature and they can't speak and can't communicate, and you're just like, what the heck? Let them be. You don't waste any energy over there. But it's also where wisdom shows up when you pause. But when you're tired, right? When you're rushing, when you're, emotionally loaded, right? Still bruised from the thing that happened in 6th grade because somebody else, that your mama did or your sibling did or whatever, right? Somebody harmed you before and you're still bruised on the inside. And then someone comes and bumps you right in that same emotional spot. And you're like, right? It's a bigger deal than it needs to be. Make sure. So again, that's why you get to pause and be like, okay, what really happened? What was that person's perspective? Like, what was the situation really? And that space, it gets really small, right? Right. It gets small when reaction takes over. But when, and when self-talk becomes automatic instead of intentional, that space is small. Something happens and you're like already in it, on it, over it, you're doing the thing. Right. So that wisdom is right there. It's in that pause. It's in the space where you say, you know what? Sometimes just breathe. Even the Marines, like in the they take four breaths. Like if they're in the middle of combat, right? That this energy, this space between the shots, between between the things that are happening that are life and death, right? It's that power of the pause. So being able to breathe, it changes also your self-talk, right? That's the first frame, is what you're saying to yourself. So your self-talk is the first frame you put around any experience. So before you talk to anyone else about what happened, you talk to yourself. You're speaking to yourself. Before you make a decision, before you set any boundaries, you that internal conversation is automatically happening. And so that's based on what you believe, right? It's based on, and we assume we assume that we're telling the truth to ourselves. But sometimes, here's the thing, thoughts are not instructions. Thoughts are interpretations of what has happened. Right? They're habits too. They're what you've been doing. Sometimes they're outdated, right? Just because you've been responding to a situation in that way does not mean you got to, you have to, you can choose, right? Some thoughts were formulated in seasons when you were just trying to survive. You're in thrival mode now. You're going into 2026 thriving. Some were learned from environments when you were a child, right? Where you were rewarded for responding to pressure as opposed to truly responding to presence. That matters. So you decide how you want to show up and what you want to respond to. But wisdom is not believing every thought you think. Let me just say that again. Just self-talk. Thoughts come into our heads because of old beliefs that are not serving us. And you don't have to believe the thoughts that come into your head. That's why this is about self-talk. Can you believe it? I'm talking about you don't have to rewrite history for yourself. You do not have to believe the thoughts that come into your head. Sometimes they're not true, right? You're not good enough. Says who? Says who? That's because someone told you that. That's because some bruises you got from before. That's from whatever, some old habits that you have, some old beliefs that you have. No. So again, wisdom is not believing every thought that you think that comes up. Wisdom is learning how to pause long enough to choose the right thought. That's true wisdom. And if we're going into closing out a year and we're reflecting, and then we're going into 2026 and it's going to be the best year of my life, well, guess what? You better do some things differently. And guess what you're taking into 2026? You're taking you into 2026. So if you need a coach, that's what transformational coaches do. We help you with your beliefs so that your own thoughts aren't sending you on these little spins, right? So we're going to put my email in the chat. It's Traci at itsallbiggerthanme.com. ITS. Oh no, we're going to give you a different email. Thank you so much. We're going to give you a different email. Thank you very much. Traci at livingpowerfully.app.com. Livingpowerfully and then app.com. Put that one in there. That's even better. I'm actually doing some work on this particular email. So just in case, we'll put that other one in there. Traci at livingpowerfullyapp.com. And so again, part of what this day is about is moving from reaction to response, like that pause, being, choosing the wisdom. And for some people, you're like, what do you mean I can't believe my own thoughts? You know exactly what I mean. Because when you say some things to yourself and you have these dialogues with yourself and you're like, right. And then so remember how we talked about beliefs? I'll give you the four human drivers. The beliefs are the roots. And then our beliefs lead to our thoughts. Our thoughts lead to our emotions. It's our emotions that lead to our actions or our inactions, and it's our actions that lead to the results in our life. So there are 5 human drivers. The beliefs are the roots. These are what shows up. The thoughts show up. The emotions show up, right? I just want to clarify, right? We do have emotions about something, but it's based on our thoughts. And the thoughts we have are based on our beliefs. So we got to go deeper into our beliefs. Like what must I believe for that thought to be true, for me to keep thinking that, right? For me to keep feeling that way, for me to keep doing that thing. What beliefs must I have for those patterns to keep showing up in my life, for me not to get the outcomes that I want? So again, 5 human drivers, and imagine this being a tree. This thumb is the roots. Those are your beliefs. And oftentimes beliefs are like the wind. So you can't see them, but they guide everything. So these trees that are blowing, there's any chaos in your life, it's probably because of some beliefs that you have that are not aligned, that just are limiting beliefs or limiting your outcomes, right? Your beliefs determine what you think. I'm gonna say that one more time. Your thoughts impact your emotions, what you feel. It's your emotions, how you feel about something. I'm excited about it, or not so much. That determines what you do, right? That's the actions that you take or that you don't take. And then it's your actions that lead to your results. So again, beliefs at this point in the year where you get to pause and hopefully think differently. You might be asking yourself, why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? Why is this always so hard? Those questions don't lead to clarity. They lead to contraction, right? But when perspective is present, the questions change, right? You can ask yourself, what does this clarify for me? Like, this thing just happened. What must I believe for this to be happening? What is this thing asking of me now based on what has just happened? What is this asking of me now? What does this version of me, what am I expected to do now, right? What if I want to be more loving and more kind and more generous and more compassionate, right? What action would be appropriate and aligned with that? Are you with me? So you got to ask different questions to get different answers. Don't ask what's wrong with me. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you. You may want to think differently. You may have some different beliefs, but you want to also be in a position where you're, again, same situation, but a different framework, different perspective. If perspective is power, then that perspective in action is you change the perspective, you reframe something in the moment, and it basically says, yes, this bad thing happened. What am I going to do about it? How do I prevent it from happening in the future? Y'all know, I swear to you, this is the truth. I will redream a dream in a minute. If I'm falling asleep and I'm having a bad dream and I wake up to a dream that was not ideal, not on my watch. I'm back. I fall back asleep as fast as I can. Not on my watch. I'm not ending the dream back because God showed up in my dream and whatever was happening, it's been flipped, been lipped and manifested. Just saying. So you can manifest your life. You can dream your dreams in your life. You can create the life that you desire based on the words that you put into your head, the actions that you take, the beliefs that you put in. I believe that it will always work out for me. Whatever's happening, God has always got my back. Ain't nobody can do nothing bad to me that God ain't gonna turn around and make it for my good even at some point. So I celebrate period. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Right? And for you, again, you're not your first thought. Whatever first comes in your mind, you have to just remember the first thought is often a reflex. The second thought can sometimes be wisdom, but the first thought might be fear. The second thought, it can be truth, but again, maybe not. But the first thought might rush you. The second thought can ground you. So you want to just make sure you're breathing, you're pausing, right? And whatever happened to you, you're not rewriting history. You're not letting other people do it, but you're also not rewriting it, making it worse than it really was. A situation happened. It didn't work out. Now what? What can I do next? What can I learn from that and move on? Keep it moving. Hello? So you don't have to silence your thoughts. You don't have to even judge them when they're not serving you. You simply have to stop letting them run unchecked, right? When that thought comes in your head, shut it down. Remember how we talked about those saboteurs? That's another thing that I help people with is identifying their saboteurs, those thoughts, right? Those beliefs that show up. You shut them down immediately. Lord, I can't believe I have 5 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. I'm going to wrap. So I'm going to wrap with only a few minutes left. But what again, this opportunity, I just want to bring it together for you. We've talked about self-talk. We've talked about duality of of truth. We've talked about perspective and the power of perspective. And here's an anchor that I want you to hold on to. Perspective does not change the facts. Perspective changes the impact of the facts. So what happened, what didn't happen, how long you had to carry that burden, how heavy it becomes, and how much power it has over you. That part is a choice. Whatever has happened. What you do with it, how you deal with it, those are the choices. That's the power of the pause. That's where the wisdom lies. So you get to choose differently. And so as you reflect on 2025 and you go into 2026, what I'm most excited about is what you're going to do in that space. You get to decide in that space what meaning you assign to anything, what voice that you listen to. Is it that first voice, that reactionary voice, or are you going to shut that one down and be like, no. Who are you choosing to be, right? Oh, someone said this was divine timing. Oh, see, I like positive feedback too. That's nice. But you do get to pause. You get to choose and you get to lead yourself. And once you shift the conversation inside, again, this is self-talk. This ain't nobody else talking to you. This is that self-talk. Once you shift the conversation inside, once your perspective comes online and is aligned with your values, it starts to show up everywhere else, right? So that it's how you treat yourself. It's the standards that you keep for yourself and for others. It's in the boundaries that you honor, right? It's in the tone that you use with yourself and with others. So all I'm going to ask right now is that you move from inner leadership to that lived leadership. Let's talk about how you treat yourself, because how you treat yourself sets the standard for everything else. So we're going to ask that you give yourself a Merry Christmas, that you show up for yourself, that you love up on yourself, and that we show up in absolute divine excellence. And it looks like I have a quick announcement to say. Radio has been to us. They have a whole lineup of amazing shows. And so at year end and year, they always have to donate on Venmo to help support community radio at Venmo at Rainier Avenue Radio. We don't get this money. I'm doing this for $1 matters. God love you.